Hi, and welcome to my Ode to Poe speed painting. You'll notice in these pictures here that these are the proper colors. I did have issues with some of the recording to where it distorted the color a little bit, so please bear with me.
Last night I began by reviewing two possible concepts of the nature of space. One, that it is simply an abstraction and projected upon the physical world in rather the same way that we project measurements, lines of latitude and longitude, or the cutting up of another abstraction called time into divisions like hours, minutes, and seconds, which are there only on the dial of the clock. The Earth in its rotation doesn't tick. And time is, of course, seen thus, simply a measure of change, of the rate of change as between two changing processes. The changing process of the clock and the changing process of, say, a person's running around. It is out of that relationship, in other words, that you get a concept of time. And similarly, through being able to measure distances in a similar way, you get a concept of space. So this is one point of view, that it's an abstraction because force would be lent to this point by the fact that space itself isn't really there. Space is just absent, and you must be very careful not, as Whitehead would have said, to reify, that is, to make a thing out of something that isn't there at all. But this is, of course, Zen humor, because Zen people are always joking about things not really being there at all. The general feeling of being nobody at all, as distinct from being important in somebody, has a kind of inverse humor to it. One becomes a sort of bag of wind. The whole idea of taking nothingness for real is somehow funny. The other point of view that I was trying to contrast with this was rather different. And that is that just because they are so imponderable and so unget-atable, space is you. Space is your consciousness. And your consciousness is not something located in your head, although your head is a way in which it's focused. And therefore consciousness can be altered by a surgeon putting instruments into the brain. But the full range of consciousness, or the full range of the mind, is the entirety of space as the continuum in which the universe exists, in rather much the same way as images exist in a mirror. The mind is like the emptiness of space. Don't exclude everything from your mind, because if your mind is like space, space contains the earth and the stars, the sun and the moon and the mountains and forests, good men and bad men, enlightened men and unenlightened men. Everything is in it. And so if a person wants to attain an understanding of the mind merely by emptying his mind, he's making his mind small instead of great. So you cannot therefore separate space from what it contains, because without the content, there's no container. Without the container, no content. The fact that we don't realize that self and other go together is the root of an enormous and terrifying anxiety. Because what will happen when the inside disappears? What will happen when the so-called I comes to an end, as it seems to? Of course, if it didn't, I mean, if things did not keep moving and changing, appearing and dissolving, the universe would be a colossal bore. And therefore, you are only aware that things are all right for the moment. I mean, I hope most of the people in this gathering have a sort of genial sense inside them that for the time being, things are going on more or less okay. Some of you may be very miserable. And then your problem may be just a little different, but it's essentially the same one. But you must realize that that sense of life being fairly all right is inconceivable and unfeelable unless there is way in the back of your mind the glimmer of a possibility that something absolutely unspeakably awful might happen. Doesn't have to happen. Of course, you'll die one day. But there always has to be the vague apprehension, the Hintergedanke, that the awfuls are possible. It gives spice to life. Now, these observations are in line with what I'm going to talk about tonight.
And I was dreaming, always dreaming. It was an easy time to dream. When you turn on your television set and men are landing on the moon, anything is possible. that spirit. If you don't achieve your dreams, you can still get a lot by trying for it. There's an expression I love: experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Then there is karma. Karma means action. And incidentally, that's all it means. When we say that something that happens to you is your karma, all it's saying is it's your own doing, as your way of discovering who you are.
And we should never lose that spirit.
Nobody's in charge of karma except you. Who's in charge? Supposed to be. There's nothing you're supposed to do. There's nowhere you're supposed to go, because in order to think you're supposed to do something, you have to think. And so it's incredibly important to unthink at least once a day, for the very preservation of the intellectual life. Controls what happens next. We would ask that because we are used to the idea that the process of nature consists of controllers and controllees, things that do and things that are done to. So many spiritual teachers and gurus their disciples and say, I am God. But the important thing is that you are.
If you are aware of a state which you call is, or reality, this implies another state called isn't, or illusion, or unreality, or nothingness, or death. And so as to make life poignant, it's always going to come to an end. But that is built into every creature's situation, no matter how high, no matter how low. When you go up a bit, you gain. When you go down a bit, you feel disappointed, gloomy, lost. You can go all the way down to death. Nothingness seems so very, very irrevocable and permanent. But then if it is, what about the nothingness that was before you started? So don't you see, what we've left out of our logic, and this is part of the game rule of the game that we are playing, is the way we hoodwink ourselves by attributing powerlessness to nothingness. It takes nothing to have something, because you wouldn't know what something was without that. You wouldn't know what the form is without the background space. You wouldn't be able to see anything unless there were nothing behind your eyes. Death is real, see. I mean, don't indulge in wishful thinking. All you people who dream of an afterlife, and heavens and gods and mystical experiences and eternity, oh, you're just wishy-washy people. You don't face the facts.
Because you see, he sees everybody around him looking dreadfully serious, looking as if they had a problem, looking as if the act of living were extremely difficult. But from his standpoint, the person who's had this experience, he feels that they look funny, that they don't understand, that there isn't any problem at all, that he has seen from where he stands, you see, that the meaning of being alive is just being alive. That is to say, I look at the color of your hair and the shape of your eyebrow, and I understand that that is the point. That's what we're all here for.
So if you really go the whole way and see how you feel at the prospect of vanishing, of all your efforts and all your achievements and all your attainments turning into dust, nothingness, what is the feeling? What happens to you? The earthly hope men set their hearts upon turns ash, and anon, like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting until hours. Then the echo, the memory, the traces are all gone. That's the end. For some reason or other, we're supposed to find this depressing. But if somebody is going to argue that the basic reality is nothingness, where does all this come from? So cheer up. We are all basically nothing. See? So in this way, by seeing that nothingness is the fundamental reality, and you see it's your reality, then how can anything contaminate it? It's just nothing, it's a dream. Because you're really nothing. But this is the most incredible nothing. Emptiness of indifference, which is sort of blank emptiness. If you think of this nothingness as mere blankness, and you hold on to the idea of blankness, and kind of grisly about it, you haven't understood it. He said nothingness is really like the nothingness of space, which contains the whole universe.
And it's so plain, and it's so obvious.
All the sun, moon, and stars, and the mountains and rivers, and the good men and the bad men, and the animals and the insect, the whole bit, all are contained in void. So out of this void comes everything, and you are it. What else could you be?